Hi, where are you from?
In suburban Chicago.
What's your name?
Ever impressive.
But never duplicate.
Hey everybody, what's going on? Eric C here. Hope you guys are doing good. I am doing great. Welcome to the Art of Noise. And today is no different. We're going to be making some art that is going to be putting on things that make noise. So you guys know I've been doing the Iron Maiden theme with Eddie and the Live After Death album or album cover and the Trooper. So this is something that I've never done before other than doing upholstery for customizing car interiors for incorporating audio systems and video systems to vehicles. Putting cloth on a guitar is something completely different and new to me. So I've been working with the epoxy resins. I ran out of epoxy, so I had to pick up some more of that. And I found another product that's kind of cool. It's another type of an epoxy, but it's colored. You don't have to add dyes in it. And they make quite a few different colors. They're transparent as well, so you can kind of see wood grain through them a little bit, which I'll get into that later on. And then I picked up a few more other things that really aren't too important. But right now you are looking at the skylight of Chicago off of Lake Michigan, and I wanted to get into a little bit on the computer side of things of some of the themes and what I've been doing. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my folder here and get into the Iron Maiden folder. Now, right here you're looking at just different types of photos that I've been doing, kind of get some inspiration and some ideas and stuff for these builds. So right here you can kind of see, this is one of my thumbnails for one of my videos. This is the picture that I got the idea from. This is the back cover of the album Live After Death, and I'm going to incorporate part of this photo into the headstock of the guitar, so it keeps the whole graveyard theme that's on the Live After Death guitar. And then I was just hunting down some photos and decided just to copy some cool ones. Now this one here, alright, this photo here is going to go on the back of the Iron Maiden Live After Death guitar. I picked up some vinyl, some printable vinyl, I wouldn't call it sticker material, but they are full sheets of paper and you could print to them. They're made out of vinyl, not paper, and they got a semi-gloss finish to it, almost like a pearl look to them. And I could print to them with the laser printer. They're good for laser or inkjet. And I had to order them because nobody around here stocked this paper in their stores. I even went over to Office Depot now. But this picture here I ended up finding online and I ended up editing it. So this is the original picture, alright? And as you can see, there's really not that much color to it. And my outcome was this. So what I ended up doing is giving some shading and putting in some color, trying to make the picture stand out a little bit more so it just wasn't more of a black and white thing. So I'm going to show you how I did this. So I'm going to go over here to the original, right click, let's see, can I open with, no, I'm going to have to close this because it'll say it's running into this. It's running on a different program. Alright, so go to 3D Paint. Now, this is kind of a fun little tool. It comes with Windows. It's nothing really fancy, but you could do some cool shit with it. So what I end up doing is I'll zoom in a little bit on the photo. And I'll grab a color. So in this case I used a lot of the blue, so I want the spray can. I want to turn the thickness down as far as possible because this is not a very large photo. And I want to grab some color. So I'm going to go with the light blue and I'm going to start to enhance some of the features of Eddie as far as his shirt goes. So instead of like using the paint can and flooding, anything that is a white color or not so much shaded or anything, I want to do this in steps. I don't want to sit there and flood anything, but you can kind of see that the circle is where my pointer is kind of, or target, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of a good size. So I got to be careful with how much I add. That's why I turned the thickness down. So I just want to give it a couple shots with the clicks with the mouse, just to enhance some of the white without going into other parts of the body features or face or hair or anything else. So I'm just going to give a little bit of color in certain areas. And I'm not really clicking the mouse a lot. I'm just kind of just adding a little bit, just to give it some highlights. And that's pretty much it. And I'll take a look at what I've done, and if I need to add a little bit more, just to give it a little bit more color. Now you don't want to blot out all the dark spots, so when you're like all the shaded areas. So when you're doing this, you just want to give it a little bit, not a lot. So here you can see like the hair really has no texture to it, so I'm going to hit it with black. Now Eddie's hair a lot of times is parted in the middles, and the shaded part would be like on the top center of his head. So I want to give him a little bit of a wide shot, and then kind of work my way down, showing kind of like a part in his hair. And then I'm going to go around, and any place that I think would be shaded, like would be like on the sides of his head, and you want to kind of go with like a circle motion, just to show that there's a little bit of depth in his hair. And then there's areas like over here that would be on the side of his face that would be kind of indented, and you want to go into the areas where it's kind of shaded as well, just to give it a little bit more profile. And then darken up areas that you might want to have a little bit darker. Alright, so now the flowers. So I went with a regular red, I just went over the flower and just kind of gave it a couple taps on each one. Not to blonde them, like blotch them out, because I want the shading to stay. So I'm just adding a little bit of color to them, just like so. And then I'll hit with the green and hit the leaves that are on the stems. Kind of like that. Now the hands. Well, Eddie's dead, so his fingernails are going to kind of be a little bit on the darker brown side or so. So I kind of hit his nails a little bit. Not a lot, but enough. And then the wounds that are on his hands, I went with a darker red. Kind of like gave that a little bit of color. Even though they're shaded, you can still add a little bit of color to it. Alright, so now for the headstone. Basically the same way, just add, you'll kind of go over a little bit in random spots, staying away from the shaded areas that are darker. And gave it a little bit of color as well. And then I hit it with some blue, pretty much the same blue that I used on his shirt. Okay, you can get rid of that, that's a little bit too dark, there you go. And just add a little bit of color, which also gives it texture. Same with the headstones that are in the background over here. The ones in the background you're not going to see that much of, so they're far away. Now for his eyes, I went with a red, and I just went right in the center. Give it a couple clicks just to give a little bit of a highlight, because I wanted that little white to still show that's in his eyes. And you want to make sure you do even clicks. So if I do 3 clicks on his eyes, I got to do 3 clicks on his other eye as well. That way they both look uniformed. And then his tie, because there's part of his tie over here that should have been colored. Yeah, and there you go. That kind of highlighted a little bit. Now I did take the black, and this one here, I think I had the this one slid open a little bit more. Now I also had the thickness up a little bit. Yeah, and I just went half a circle and just kind of went evenly down the sides. Try to stay on the picture. To give it a shadow fog effect. And that'll also blend into the black paint that is on the back of the Live After Death guitar. So this is how I made the picture for the Iron Maiden Live After Death back artwork. Now the photo was somebody else's photo. I don't know where it came from. I ended up just hunting it down online and right click, save as, bingo, now I have it. But I edited it, and giving the editing as far as adding some color to it, giving it a little bit more texture, and then it matches the front of the body a little bit more and the headstock because of the coloring that's inside of it. Now I could do the same as far as the sky goes. Let's see here. Add a little bit of blue in the sky. Oh, that was too dark. I'm going to have to hit the thickness down a little bit and turn this down a little bit. Just to add a little bit more color to the clouds. I think this is what I'm going to do with the original one, is add a little blue to the clouds, maybe, I'm not sure. Just to break up the darkness in the background. So yeah, this is how I ended up doing the Iron Maiden Live After Death artwork for the back of the guitar. As I said before, it's not my own artwork, but you know, saves me from having to spend time drawing on it and more time working on the guitar. I used to draw Eddie a lot when I was in high school, and my biggest face that I used to do as far as the Eddie thing goes was the Number of the Beast, and shit, what was the other album? I can't remember, with the pyramid and shit on it, when he's wrapped up with like a mummy. I used to do that one a lot as well. And in fact, one of the walls in the basement over here, which we painted over when I started doing the remodeling of the basement, used to have Eddie a couple times drawn on the walls down here. And that was something I did when I was a kid. Alright, so let's get into some bigger and better. Alright, so I went from this picture here to the final product, which will be this one right here. Now this will be going on the Live After Death body. This will be on the back of it, and it'll blend in with the black background. I didn't do anything fancy with the back of this guitar. It's just the whole back of it's just going to be black. So let's go on to the headstock for the Live After Death guitar. Alright, so let's get into the headstock logo for the LTD Live After Death Iron Man guitar. Just like how I did the Trooper guitar, this is going to be done the same way, a little bit different. Now I made a template, and here's my template, but it was cut out of paper, not like photo stock. So what I ended up doing is I'll go and I'll find a high resolution artwork, and if I need to scale it down, I'll scale it down. So it's easier to scale down a photo than trying to scale it up to a higher resolution if it's a lower resolution, because of the fact it'll pixelate it'll look grainy. It just doesn't look right. So the way to do it is to find something larger and then scale it down if you need to. So this is a photo that I found that is the back of the album cover that is in high resolution, or it was in high resolution. I ended up scaling it down to the size that I need so it wouldn't take up like a whole piece of paper when I printed it out, even though I did scale it down with the printer as well. But it just worked out a lot better if I just kind of lowered the resolution because of the lettering and stuff I put on there. You try to put a lettering on a very large resolution picture and it looks small. So if you scale it down a little bit, that writing or lettering that you're putting over that picture kind of goes with it a little bit, and you don't have to max out your highest setting. It just works out a lot better. It's hard to explain, I guess, but eventually I'll get the right program to do this the proper way. Right now I've just been experimenting and it's been working out pretty good. So I'll take a photo like this, which is the back of the album cover, Live After Death. Now I did crop out the writing that was at the bottom, and there was I think the list of songs at the top that I ended up cropping them out, and then I resized the photo as well. I believe it's on 9:16, but it's not a 1080 resolution. Alright, so this is the original photo, and this is what I ended up with after I added the LTD with. And you can see that, well, it's a little bit on an angle. It doesn't look like straight with the photo because it's not going to, because of the shape of the headstock. I had to go by the shape of the headstock is a little bit up on an angle pointing upwards. It's got a narrow point to it. It's got some room on the bottom. So the paper template, which is this, is basically where I got this from. Now, in order to do this, which was pretty easy, I open up the file, and again, I'm using Paint 3D, which comes with Windows. I think it's Windows 10 or 11. I don't know. But anyway, so I ended up going to text. Now, I'll go ahead and pick out my colors, which the original text had a yellow background behind the LTD. So I went and I picked a 94. I gave it a bold, and then I went with stencil. Alright, so there's my LTD. Well, it's straight here, but how do I get it to kind of go on an angle? So I added a 12-degree angle to it. And then I moved it into position, kind of like where it is in the headstock template photo. And then I clicked paste it, and just click the side of the background or whatever, the picture, and it'll put that in its spot. Now, this isn't like the first time that I had to do this. I had to do this several times in order to get it right the way that I wanted it. So next I'll go and click off the bold, and then I'll go to the white, because the original was white with a yellow backing, hit text, and I'll go ahead and do the same thing, LTD. I will give it a 12-degree angle, too much, and I'll move it on top of the yellow. Now what I want to do is I want to see the yellow outline around the white and behind it, and I'll go ahead and click OK. So there, and now that's pasted, and I'll save this file. And when I make the actual picture for the guitar, I want it to be bigger, not the exact size. I want to manually trim off the actual photo off of the headstock so I can get the shape perfect. And that's running a razor blade along the edge, riding the edge of the headstock, and shaping it with the razor blade, not trying to freehand cut it before putting it on or gluing it onto the headstock. The template that I made, first one is made out of paper. It's basically the exact fit, and that was just giving me an idea of where the lettering is going to go. Do I have to move it left or right? Do I have to move the lettering up or down? Where is that going to end up being my final result before I say, okay, I'm using this? So then I'll go ahead and I'll save this photo here, which I'm not going to because I already have one, and that is right here. Now that's the finished product right there. That's what you are looking at sitting the paper template, and that's what you're going to be looking at right now on the headstock.